Hello and welcome to another episode of the Attacking Sport podcast. It's Premier League predictions time. It's Daniel, your host here, joined once again by my brother Sean firstly.
How's it going?
And firstly by the champion Kevin Quinn, a narrow 5-4 win over Matt. Kev, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks lads, good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. Welcome back. And delighted to announce the challenger, a former contributor on the Attacking Sport with our Carl Wallace episode alongside Carl Wallace. It's Ryan Murphy. Ryan, been waiting for a while to get you on. How's things?
What's the story, lads? Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be back. We were just sort of admiring your office background there. It's definitely the best background we've had on the podcast by far. So
professional. They're all prehistoric Premier League results.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that haven't seen before, it's 3 points for a win, 1 point for 3 points for correct score, and 1 point for a correct result. Kevin had a narrow 5-4 win, as I mentioned. So Kevin, happy enough with that in the end? We were just going through it there. It was the West Ham win that won it for you in the end.
Yeah. I was worried a bit at the end, obviously, with the penalty and the goal going in, but delighted to get the win in the end. Thought there'd be more goals in the game. It was going that way as well, to be honest. But delighted to just get the win in the end.
Yeah, I've never seen two managers both thinking it was a Villa should have won it, but you listen, Kev, you got away with it. And we've been getting away with ourselves here in Attacking Sport and not having a tie-break option for so long. And I think last week was way too close for comfort. So, Sean, you've come up with a tie-break solution for us.
Yeah, so we're at the end after all. Well, it's 9 predictions this week because of Villa Newcastle, which we'll get onto. But we're going to ask them for the minute they think the first goal is going to be scored across all 9 games. It's a bit like, have you seen that thing for Gillette Soccer Saturday where a load of people on a stag do wait to see who scores the first goal and then decide where they're going for the stag do? It's a bit, they wait for the first goal to go in. So it's the first minute of a goal scored across all 9 games this week.
Absolutely. So let's get straight into it. For those on YouTube, we'll have the fixtures up front. We'll go to you, the champion first, Kev. Burnley versus Everton. How do you see this game go?
I see this game going same as, well, it's not the same as I said last week, but the same as I thought all season. I think it'll be an Everton pulling away from this one. I think I said last week as well that Burnley, they just can't score. Like I said that they scored, I think it was 2 goals was the most they scored in the game this season, and they lost that game again. So yeah, Everton obviously flying apart from last week and the week before, but apart from that, I think they're playing well. They've got goal scorers in the team. Burnley don't. So simple as that, I really think. So I've gone for a 2-0 win for Everton here.
2-0 win, Everton. Chop. Sorry, we call you Chop, by the way. So going to be just, I can't call you Ryan. Chop, how do you see this game going? And what's your prediction?
Yeah, very, very similar. In fact, the exact same. I have down a 2-0 win for Everton. Like Calvert-Lewin's top goal scorer in the Premier League. He scored more goals than Burnley themselves as an entire.
Wow.
There's not much to say other than, as I say, Burnley I just can't see them scoring. And if they do, I can't see them outscoring Everton. So either down for 2-0 win Everton.
Yeah, Burnley seems to get a hard time in the Premier League predictions,
podcast,
Sean. Yeah, on this podcast in general. Sean, can you disagree with the lads there at all?
I can a little bit. A few arguments. It's a 12:30 game on a Saturday. It's not the kind of place you want to go for a 12:30 game. Up to Burnley. You know, I think we've seen this from Everton at times where they do lose a couple of games and they had a good scrappy win over Fulham, and then they were so poor against Leeds, I thought, and Leeds outplayed them. But I think, the Southampton game will still be in the memory of Everton fans. And I kind of fancy Burnley here to get something from the game. And it's games. These are the games where Burnley have traditionally done well. I mean, they aren't the best against the big, you think your top 4, your top 6, but against teams like, Wolves and Leicester and teams, sort of in and around where Burnley have been at times 10th, 11th. I think this is where they get the main bulk of their points. So I kind of fancy them to get something from the game. And I think, Everton will still be hung over a little bit from that Leeds game where they got battered really. Yeah,
they did, to be fair. Leeds were far superior in every department. So we'll go to you, Ryan, and stay with, we'll go from Manchester City, Fulham. So nice low-key start from 2 years with the Burnley Everton predictions. How do you see City, Fulham going? Like, do you see City giving a big hammer in here?
Yeah, Fulham obviously in a little bit more form than when they first started. They both won their last games, and then City off the back of a draw against Porto midweek in the Champions League. But again, similar to the last fixture, I just can't see City at home not winning comfortably. Fulham will score, I think, because they're in form, as I say. But I'm going to go with a comfortable win for City here with a 4-1 win.
4-1. Okay, into you, Kev. How do you see? You kind of predicted a 4-1. I think City win last week. You weren't too far off.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
see the similar enough?
Yeah, definitely similar enough. Like obviously Fulham are coming into form a little bit, but even their goals last week against Leicester, like the penalty and then the other goal, they're both avoidable for Leicester's point of view again. I don't think Fulham have the goal scorers in them to, really get at City at all. And obviously City have the attacking prowess and the defenders to really get at Fulham. So I don't think Fulham will score, to be honest. I said that again last week when they played Leicester, but I can't see them scoring against City now. So I predicted a 5-0 win for City here.
5-0 win. Wow. Sean, can you see anything changing from the two lads?
No, look, I think that they're going to be thereabouts of those predictions. I must say, like I said last week, I was impressed with Scott Parker. And I think the one thing I would be impressed with is he sort of identified the problem very early. And I think everyone could see the defence, but he was so open in his criticism. And I think they went to Wolves and they might have lost 1-0. But the goal they conceded, Alexander Mitrovic is in the back, in the penalty box defending. And I think that's the sort of cultural change that's happened with Fulham. And I think they've been impressive the last few weeks. Look, it's so hard to see them staying up, but I think Scott Parker's doing a great job with them. The one thing I'd say, I think Ryan touched on it there, Manchester City were poor in the week in the Champions League against Porto, and a lot of stuff has come out of that game. The Porto released a newsletter slating City for their lack of class, slating Fernandinho, slating Pep Guardiola. So I think we could see a reaction from City's team, albeit against Burnley, albeit against Fulham. I think we could see goals again.
Yeah, and that Burnley game was the first game City really have started scoring, because like we mentioned last week, they've been kind of struggling in the goals department, surprisingly. But Ryan, we'll stay to you. You're a Manchester United fan. It's a bit of MUFC TV this week on the podcast. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like it's the same problems. Like, what were your thoughts on the Leipzig game there last night? And is it just the same old problems? You're just constantly being inconsistent. Is there anything else to it other than just inconsistent? 1 week good and 1 week terrible.
It's just so cyclical at this stage. You know what's exactly going to happen. United go in a good run of form, then lose a very important game midweek, Champions League, and then the following week, Ole wins the game to save his job potentially. And then it just happens again and again and again. This game melted my head. All I can think is Moisey boy, and I think he's coming back for a bit of vengeance here. West Ham at home. There's fans at this game, isn't there, lads? This is one.
Yeah, I think anyone in the tier 1 or 2, Sean, is more of that.
West Ham will have 2,000, I think, and it's actually like Ryan said, it does make a difference. For example, in the Championship, Luton had fans against top of the table Norwich and beat them 3-1 and beat them out the gate, really. Albeit Norwich were missing a few players, but it does show you. And Wickham as well have fans against Stoke, but like Ryan said, 2,000 West Ham fans.
And which will go a long way for them. I think there'll be goals for both sides. Rashford came off injured last night. Is he going to play? He's a doubt. Goals are coming from him. United have won 8 consecutive away games in the Premier League at the moment, and it's the longest run at the moment. And all he needs to save his job, obviously, to get himself out of the newspapers. So I'm going to go with a very close game. Bruno penalty at the end, 90th minute, 2-1 United.
Yeah, I always try and figure out what the prediction is based on what you said, and I had 1-2 written down a long way out. But yeah, like Kev, do you kind of agree a lot of that interesting stat there from Ryan? The United's waveform's phenomenal there with the 8 wins in a row, but do you see them continuing that?
To be honest, I do. Like, it's a weird one, because last night I thought United, people were saying, like, I remember one of the lads was saying that Mbappe was all over United and PSG were all over, but I thought it was a very evenly matched game. And you take the Martial chance as well. That was at 1-1. I think there was 2 of them actually, but both of them when it was at 1-1. United could have won that 3-1. And obviously the PSG second goal was a joke, defending from United. The ball should have been well gone by then. You saw them last week. They were 2-0 down, came back to win it 3-2 last minute. And again, even if Rashford's not playing, United's like every substitute on United's bench, I have to say, is just better than the attacking players that West Ham have. So technically, I think United should win it. I just wouldn't be surprised though if West Ham put up some sort of a score or some sort of fight with it, with the way they're playing this year. But I went against United last week. I'm not going to do the same this week, so I've said a 3-1 win for United.
3-1 win. Sean, your thoughts on the PSG game? I kind of agree with Kev that I thought PSG were the better team maybe the first half hour, and that middle third I thought United, until the PSG goal went in, I thought United really played well, I thought.
Yeah, I didn't catch all of the game. I was kind of flicking through a lot of the different games, but like, I mean, you know, Ollie's got to really answer questions on the sending off of Fred, and it's even more bizarre when you think they've 5 subs, you know, in the Champions League. So it's not as if he doesn't want to use the sub at half time and then he only has 2. I mean, he's got 4 more. So and the fact if you do it at half time, then you still have 3 more breaks to use your 4. So you're not really hampering yourself there. I think PSG, you know, I was kind of impressed with them in the last 20 minutes, the way they closed the game out. People talk about them rolling all over the ground. I know it's a part of the game, but I think, you know, teams, it's so frustrating watching a team foul under Herrera when you know what he's going to do, or, you know, foul Marquinhos. It's like when those Real Madrid Barcelona games of the past, when Pepe and Busquets used to come up against each other, they both bang off each other and they both roll around on the ground, and whoever screamed loudest would invariably get the free. So I think Man United were probably just lacking a little bit of Champions League experience for the last 20 minutes. They never really, you know, gave themselves a proper ground to really attack and try and get a point from it. You know, West Ham I thought were really good against Aston Villa. Kind of classic David Moyes, even with Everton, they kind of seize their moments. You know, you think of those Everton sides where, you know, they'd sit in a lot of the time under David Moyes, but when they attacked, you knew they'd quality. And I must say, Jared Bowen has really started to make the step up from Championship. I mean, he was probably the brightest player in the Championship 2 years ago for Hull, and Hull were always kind of mid-table. But Jared Bowen cutting in, at times he played as a number 9, at times he played as a winger, and he really impressed. And he's starting to really find a run of games and form. I think Berahima will start. Sorry, Benrahma rather. I think he'll start it instead of Antonio, who didn't really look that sharp, and whether an extra week's training might help. But I think they have quality, and I think the one thing about West Ham is they've always seemed to have players who will stand up in big moments. You think of Arnautovic and Yarmolenko, who scored against, you know, Chelsea and United in the past. So I kind of fancying David Moyes here. Look, everyone knows United's qualities going forward.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to move on to the 8 o'clock game here now. Chelsea Leeds. I think this is going to be an absolute cracker. We'll go to you, Kev. How do you see this game going? Leeds on a high after that Everton win, and Chelsea after I thought was an unbelievable performance, and even Olivier Giroud scoring 4 goals. I think Arsenal need a player like Olivier Giroud. It's a pity we actually had him and got rid of him.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it'll be a cracking game. There's goals in this game for sure for like both teams. You know, they've both got goal scorers on the pitch and then off the bench as well, as you saw with Chelsea's third choice striker scoring 4 goals during the week. Obviously, Leeds are on a high as well from last week. 1-0 win over Everton, which caught me and Matt by surprise, actually, because I don't know, we thought there'd be more goals. We thought it'd be closer, but I suppose that's the way it goes sometimes. Chelsea, obviously, since they got the keeper in, they're just not conceding goals. I think they've got their defence set up. Like, Zuma looks like a really good defender now, I have to say. Like, a few years ago, he had a mistake in him, and obviously he still does, but he's become much better in there. Yeah, I found this really difficult to predict because I want to say there's more goals than I've already predicted here, but I do think that Frank will try and be a little bit reserved, kind of do what he did against Spurs last week, but I still think both teams will score here. So I went with a 2-1 win for Chelsea, and Bamford will score for Leeds, but that'll be it.
Oh wow, nice little bonus goal score. We love that. Yeah, Ryan, I think I saw stats since the start of last season. Mendy's kept like 1 less clean sheet than Kepa has in all competitions for Chelsea, which I kind of says it all. He's had a really big impact on Chelsea's defence, almost single-handedly, I think. But how do you see Chelsea going up against a really good Leeds side, who have really kind of taken the Premier League by storm, I guess, and with some terrific performances?
Yeah, I straight off the bat, I think Frank's found his form and he's found his team now. That Chelsea squad, Zuma, Thiago and defence seem like very, very solid. I think defensively they're very good. Leeds obviously off the back of the Everton win, but just not as good as form as Chelsea are. Chelsea are almost a team to beat other than Spurs at the moment in the Premier League. So I also agree with Kev. Both teams will score, and this one does have goals in it. But I think Chelsea will show that Leeds are, you know, maybe a touching off lower half table club, and they'll win 3-1.
And to you, Sean?
Yeah, I fancy Chelsea here. Look, I said I thought Leeds would get a result at Everton.
But just on that now, Sean, is this not the kind of game that Leeds, that you maybe said at the start of the season, Leeds could?
No, but I think the Everton game suited them because they they could implant their style of play. I think Chelsea are just so good at pressing and sort of I think Mason Mount, if he does start, which he probably will kind of sit on Calvin Phillips and stop Leeds playing. I know Jamie Carragher did a piece in it, but I think, you know, the way Chelsea are set up, they're kind of set up to defend against that. So I kind of fancy Chelsea here. Look, they've done well defensively. And they're on really good form, you know, no losses in their last, you know, 6 games, I think, in the league, and they've really improved. And after a slow start, you think of the West Brom game when, you know, all their old problems seem to be coming, and now they've got the goalkeeper in. But I do think Chelsea are well set up to play Leeds and you know, press high and get, you know, Leeds are going to lose the ball in high areas. It's just how well they can deal with it.
Yeah, Kev, I want to catch you off guard a bit and said Moffat wasn't too happy that you were slating a couple of the Leeds defenders last week, and he not only listened to the podcast before the Everton game, he listened to it afterwards as well, I think. So have you anything to say or anything back to him?
I got a voice message last night, so I was close to a death threat asking me to apologise for slating Cock because of his performance, but now nothing to say. Still have the same opinion on him, but hopefully it'll change towards the end of the season.
I love that, Kev, sticking to your guns. I'm sure I'll get the voice message now as the mediator here. But it's interesting that how tight the Premier League actually, if you look at the table there, and Leeds beat Chelsea on the weekend, they'll only be within 2. So it just shows you that one win or 2 either way. Chop, we'll go to you for West Brom Palace. Lovely game for you there. I'm interested to see how many seconds you get out of this. How do you see this game going?
This was the most difficult fixture.
Yeah.
Darragh O'Shea podcast almost had me biased for a West Brom win here. But I've gone against that. I just think have just more quality up front over the likes of Callum Robinson. They have Zaha and Ayew going forward. It's going to be low scoring. In fact, it'll only be 1 goal, I reckon, and it'll be 1-0 Crystal Palace. I think that was a total of 30 seconds.
Yeah, pretty, maybe even less. Kev, how do you see this game going? Darragh O'Shea, obviously on Wednesday show for anyone that listens to us, so I'm sure you'll kind of factor that into your thinking as well as Shop.
Yeah, I've gone a different way here. I've said 2-2. I don't know what it is. I was saying it last week. West Brom are coming into a little bit of form. Crystal Palace are going the opposite way. They're going out of form. I can't. Is Zaha back for Palace or is he still out?
He was 25% on fantasy, maybe 50%. Sean, do you know anything as I check it?
I thought he was still out.
I think he might be, because I think they brought in a rule in England that if you get your test and quarantine, like Salah was back fairly quickly once he tested negative, so I think Zaha will be a very late decision.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to get in the Zaha hype here or anything, but like, he changes the game completely for Crystal Palace. So if he's in the team, I'd have to say it's Palace. Without him, you know, they've got good players. They probably have better players than West Brom, but they don't function together as well. Like, he's the kind of glue that, you know, it makes that team attack. So I've gone with a 2-2 draw between the two teams. I have a feeling Callum Robinson will score, and maybe they'll get another one from a set piece. Hopefully Darragh O'Shea, who was on the podcast yesterday. So, but I'm not 100% sure. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, I don't know what it is. They're going, like, I thought they were a much better side than Newcastle going into last week, and they lost 2-0 at home. So, yeah, they're going the opposite way to West Brom. So I've said 2-2, even though I think Crystal Palace are a better team, but just with the grand scheme of things, I've gone 2-2.
Yeah, Sean, it just says 25% on fantasy, which is my source for all injuries. Sean, how do you see this game going?
Yeah, I fancy West Brom here. I think since Ivanovic has come into them, they look really more solid. He's playing in the middle of a back three. I think I just kind of fancy them a little bit more at the moment. Palace were horrendous against Newcastle, and I mean horrendous. Like it was what I thought at the start of the year. I put it out there. I thought Roy Hodgson could be the first manager to leave his post. They'd, you know, traditionally do well against big teams. You think they're beating City away and then beating City away a couple of years ago. To beat United away, which a lot of teams have beaten United at Old Trafford. But I don't know. I just don't fancy Crystal Palace. Like Kev said, without Zaha, they're half a side. They're still missing a goal scorer up top. I mean, they've been plagued with that. You know, you think of Benteke, Jordan Ayew, Michy Batshuayi, all guys who can get you 4 or 5 goals, but, you know, not a 10-goal a season. They had your man Sora Lot, the big striker. I think he was Danish. He didn't score a goal and then went on loan and got 20 goals, I think, in Germany. So I don't know whether it's the system or what it is, but I kind of fancy West Brom here. They look solid at the back. And at the moment, you have to say, going forward, they've got quality. And I think that's that's their biggest asset at the moment. Pereira, Robinson, Grant. Carlon Grant is a really good striker. If he can get a run of games, which he has at the moment, got a few more goals. I know he scored a take away to Brighton. I mean, he's a real handful, and I'm gonna fancy West Brom here.
Yeah, Sean, I'm actually going to stay with you for this because I'm a feeling the lads might go Leicester. Can you convince them in any way that Chris Wilder and Sheffield United, who have 1 point so far this season, can get something out of this game?
I must say, I know they lost, but I felt sorry for Sheffield United and Chris Wilder, because I mean, they created, I think, 6 or 7 clear-cut opportunities. Look, I must say that they stuck to their guns. They kind of went forward the back for the last 15, 20 minutes, I think, which kind of worked. They had your man Brian on debut. Look, I'm not sure about that. I think, John Egan's such a good centre back. He can play anywhere in the back three. So I'd like to see them maybe give Jagielka a go. He's on the bench. He's so experienced. He's played for the club before. He's a Sheffield lad. I think they kind of need that little bit of know-how and experience in games, I think, at the moment. I know they're missing O'Connell and Stevens is out. I must say, yeah, I thought they were really good and so unlucky not to score against West Brom, but it's those games that relegate sides. And I was watching that just thinking, I mean, this is a relegation. This is games that make it go relegated. The one thing I'd say is, Leicester are probably a little bit off the boil, and they've been playing, Europa League, and we know how hard it is to play Europa League, Premier League. Jamie Vardy going back to Bramall Lane as a proud Sheffield Wednesday fan, and that there was that iconic image last year of him scoring a goal and the cop end at Bramall Lane just copping a bit from Vardy. But it's a game now. You have to look Chris Wilder and try and get a point, because if not, you're sitting 1 point from 11 games, which it's fairly impossible to stay up.
Yeah, and on that, Ryan, we'll go to you for the next prediction. There's, I think, 17 points Leicester clear of Sheffield United, which just shows you the gap in a tight Premier League, how far adrift Sheffield United are. Do you give them any chance here?
No, not at all. I've watched Sheffield a couple of times this season, and 90 minutes for my sins as well a few times. I think they're awful. I have one thing written down here for this result, and it's Vardy party 2-0 Leicester, both goals from Vardy.
It's nice and simple. Kev?
Yeah, I don't know about this one, to be honest. Like Leicester are playing tonight, they might have a bit of a hangover. I'd say, to be honest, they brought a load of youngsters I know with them to wherever they're going. I can't remember where they're going. I think it's Ukraine or something. And I'd imagine they'll play tonight. But you wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of hangover, especially after the loss against Fulham last week. I went with the safe option of saying it's going to be a 1-0 win for Leicester, because these are the games that Jamie Vardy looks forward to in a season. I'd imagine he'd score the goal. But I would like to see a Sheffield win, to be honest, even if I get this wrong, because they have been playing well, as Sean says. They're his second favourite team, I know anyway. So, yeah, I like it's a hard one to call, because, Sheffield needed results, and this could be the game. But I've just gone with the safe shot option of saying it's going to be a Leicester 1-0.
And to say about Sean, his second favourite team last year was Norwich, and we all know what happened there. So
exactly.
It doesn't necessarily.
And now looking Norwich top of the championship.
I know, yeah, but championship being the key word. Ryan, exactly. Ryan, you built up your Arsenal prediction to me over the last couple of days with similar to what Moffat's been sending Kev. To be honest, with just some shocking texts to me now. That's not what I need looking at my WhatsApp. So. I'm nervous of what your prediction is here, but yeah, give us a little bit of taste of how you feel these two sides are going into the game, and Jose Mourinho back.
Jose's back. Spurs are the team to beat at the moment. They're most in form, but I just can't. I can't go to this fixture without just slating Arsenal here. I watched 90 minutes of that the other night. The second half was some of the worst football I've ever seen against Wolves. Nelson couldn't cross his laces. Couldn't beat the first man. No end product in the final third. All possession in your own half when no one's pressing you. I was the North London derby, so you'd like to think, Arsenal are going to come out a little bit more than last week. But I think with the quality that Spurs have within their first 11 on the bench, I can't see them not winning. So I've gone with a Spurs win 3-2.
3-2, so goals. Yeah, thanks for that, Ryan. Kev, how do you see this game going? Similar kind of question to yourself.
Yeah, very similar. I just don't know where he's getting 2 goals for Arsenal from, to be honest. It's a weird one, because they're not scoring at all this season, and especially against Wolves last week, a 2-1 win, and Wolves didn't have Raul Jimenez. for the whole game, and Wolves still managed 2 goals, and that's where their goals come from. So yeah, I'm not sure where Ryan gets his 2 goals from for Arsenal. I've kind of, just to please you lads, I've said 1 goal for Arsenal, but I think it'll be 3-1 to Spurs. I think it's the worst game Arsenal could have on the back of their results so far. A North London derby out of form against the most informed team in the Premier League. I just don't think they have a chance in this one, especially over at the Tottenham Stadium. So yeah, 3-1 Spurs for this.
Yeah, Quinn actually has an article which will be on site by the time you hear this podcast, defending Arteta and why he's the right man for the job. I also saw you, Sean, liking a tweet from Arteta explaining kind of the process, etc., in his Europa League press conference. You got hope, not just for this game, maybe a long-term picture for Arteta, and then can you see them getting something out of this game?
No, undoubtedly, I think Arteta is the right man. I think every team goes through a phase that we're in at the moment with, consistency of games, and maybe he can't get his message across as much as he likes. Look, he had shifted to 4 at the back because of Thomas Partey's arrival, and that's the reason we are going to play 4 at the back, because we need Thomas Partey in midfield. The one thing I would say is, look, it's going to be so interesting to see how Jose Mourinho sets up. Like, Mourinho's got a great record against Arsenal historically, a great record against Arsene Wenger, a good record against Pep Guardiola. So everything points towards him having a good record against Mikel Arteta. Obviously won the last derby in the first lockdown. Arsenal gifted them 2 goals. I think defensively we were all over the place. But I must say, I don't think it's the worst game for Arsenal to play now. Look, I think the way Tottenham are in, the form they're in, I wonder what way they'll set up. And I think it's going to be question marks. I think Arsenal will play 5 at the back. I think we'll defend in numbers, try and hit them on the break. And look, you hope. I mean, it's a North London derby. Tottenham are top of the league. You want to knock them off their perch. If the Arsenal players can't get up for this game, then question marks should be asked about Arteta. But going forward, I think he is the right man. And I think Aubameyang could come good. Look, he's a decent record against Tottenham. Look, I remember he missing a penalty in Wembley in the last couple of minutes
To win the game.
Yeah, to win the game. Lloris made a save. But I also think Vertonghen was encroaching at the penalty and it should have been retaken. But I'm not bitter at all. But I think you'd still fancy Tottenham, of course you would. But as an Arsenal fan, a North London derby, it's never a good game. But I think it's not the worst time to play a Jose Mourinho Tottenham side when they're the favourites to win. They're top of the league and it's on them to play. And I don't think they have the footballers at times to break down a good defensive block, and if Arsenal can provide one.
Yeah, it's almost like Arsenal need to sit in like a small team, because Spurs have struggled there during the season. If Spurs win the game, they'll go 11 points clear of Arsenal. It just shows you what a massive game it is. Kev, we'll go to you for Liverpool Wolves. Liverpool were very, very good last weekend. They seemed to kind of just get it and grind out. 2 weekends ago. In grinding out the win against Leicester, but the 1-1 away against Brighton, I always felt they played well enough, but that goal has kind of seemed to knock a bit of stuffing out of them, and Jurgen Klopp went out, and we spoke about it on Monday's podcast. How do you see this game going at home to Wolves?
Yeah, I'd say they can take loads of confidence from the midweek game, especially. Just not a second string team, but not their strongest team that was out playing there, and obviously the goalkeeper changed, albeit Creed Kelleher had a great game. Wolves, on the other hand, great result against Arsenal, of course, but they don't have Raul Jimenez for, unfortunately, what seems like the rest of the season at least. So I think it'll be really tough for Wolves. They're obviously, Jota's coming up against his old side. He'll want to put a couple past them, I would imagine. And I think Liverpool again are too strong, albeit I said that last week when they played Brighton. But I still think that Liverpool will do a job here. They need a good result after last week. So I've gone with 2-0 Liverpool.
Cool. Ryan, are you, as a United fan, are you going to let that cloud your judgment here? Or where are you going with this?
To be fair, for the first time ever, I'm probably almost pro Liverpool, almost.
Wow.
Every time I watch them, I'm impressed. The way they win the ball back so quickly, their transitions are unbelievable. Kev touched on good win midweek with a second string side almost. Lots of injuries as well. I'm also thinking time kickoff is 7:15. Clock can't give out about that this week. Plenty of time to recover.
Yeah, it's late enough, isn't it? The latest can be.
But you don't win these things by playing the safe bet. You have to stick your neck out in the line. So I was originally going to go with a Wolves win, but I just can't see them win. So I'm going to go with a goal draw, 2-2.
2-0. Wow, that could be a big
That's
moment.
going to end me. I know it is. It's either going to make or break it.
Yeah, because it could be tight enough because there's similar results up to that. Sean, has Ryan got any argument there?
Yeah, I think he has. I think Wolves, since they've shifted to fourth, the back halfway through the Southampton game, have looked a different animal, especially going forward. And I think at times, I think what Nuno will do is I think he'll play a fluent system where he'll play 5 at the back in defence and 4 in attack if they can, and it'll be. I think he's trying to work on that crossover between the two and try and get a hybrid. Look, I think Jurgen Klopp was kind of proven in the week why he wants 5 subs and why a lot of people don't. He played 2 subs against Ajax because the game was in the balance. He played 1 after 60 minutes. He brought Firmino on for Jota, a like-for-like replacement. And he took Salah off in the 90th minute for Reece Williams, the centre-half. Now, the reason Klopp wants 5 subs is for a game where he's 3-0 up and he's able to rest his players because they're winning. It's an advantage for him and the bigger size, and the opposition have, coming up against 5 fresh attackers. That's why Liverpool want it in. They don't want it in for those normal games. And I think that's sort of where the advantage is coming. They want to use it at their luxury and at their disposal if it is. So that's just one thing to know from it. And I'm with Ryan. I kind of fancy Wolves here. Liverpool a little bit out of sorts. They were poor against Ajax. Keeper makes a horrendous mistake for the goal. I think Quinn Kelleher could start and goal, which is big for them. Big for Wolves, because Wolves will look to test them. It's a different ball game playing in a Premier League game like that. I think, the Champions League is huge and you're up against Ajax, but I think the pressure on Liverpool now with the relentlessness of the Premier League, with how tight it is, they can't afford to drop points. They could have afforded to drop points to Ajax. So I think the pressure will be on Quinn Kelleher, and I think Wolves will look to target him.
An absolutely it'll be a big day for Quinn Kelleher as well, making his Premier League debut, I think, or has he played before in the Premier League? But it's a big day for him regardless. Lads, any opinion on the 5 subs before we move on, Kev or Chop, in terms of Sean's opinion there and Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah, I can see why the kind of smaller teams wouldn't like it. Like, you wouldn't introduce 5 subs into the Championship, and that's the same thing for the lower half of the table, because they just don't have the squad that the bigger teams would have. Because what's happening is the 5 players that come on could easily be better than 5 players that are on the pitch for the other team. And yeah, they'd be at more of an advantage. Obviously, the bigger clubs, the United, the Man Cities, Liverpool, Tottenham. Originally, I was for it just because it would stop the injuries, I'd imagine. So players aren't overplaying and all that sort of stuff. But you can see why, the likes of Chris Wilder and all this kind of other managers at the lower half of the table don't want it to come in. And you can completely get why that is, and you can understand why the bigger clubs would want it to come in. So.
Yeah, Chop.
I was the same. I was originally pro 5 subs, but Sean's nailed on the head there with Liverpool. If they're 4-0 up and they can bring on equally as good talent that was already on the pitch, it's great for them. I also look at it from a purely United point of view as well. If they had 5, Ollie would only use 1. You've had Fred on a yellow card last night, guaranteed to get a red. He had 5, maybe 5 or at least 4 players who could have replaced him. I know it's Champions League, but it's also a big headache for a manager of a lower team who has the potential to dispose of 5 players. So I'd be happy to see it stay at 3.
Yeah, and the fact Matic was on the bench made that decision from Ollie, shocking, really, to be fair.
Well, Dan, I have an example for another reason why I'm against it. Preston had an unbelievable win against Bournemouth, 3-2, likes of Alan Brown playing right back for them. But, it was a game.
Was that Alan Brown playing right back? Alan
Brown played right back. Your man Darnell Fisher got a 3-game ban for that incident, for an unsavoury incident. But Preston were winning 3-2 in the 90th minute, and they made 4 subs. So they used Alex Neil, who's fighting for his life as Preston manager. They haven't got off to the best start at times, but he made 3 blocks of 4 subs in the 90th minute. And talk about sucking the life out of a game. And fair play to Alex Neil and Preston. They got the result, but I think you're seeing it in the Championship. Some teams are like, I think Tony Pulis made 3 subs at half time in the Reading game. Albeit they got a red card, so he had to shuffle around. But I think you're seeing subs play too many substitutions and too many stoppages in the game. And I think, I don't want to see it in the Premier League for that reason. That if, like I said, Liverpool win a 4-0 or City are winning 4-0 against Burnley and they take off all their attacking players to rest because it's a bonus to them.
Yeah, some fair points there in fairness. We'll move on to the last game, which is Brighton Southampton. We'll go to you, Kevin, and on to Chop. If Southampton had kept their leads the last two games, I have them joint top of the league here, looking at the Premier League. They're in some decent form, but you have to be disappointed the last two games. I say they'll look at that as an opportunity missed, that they could really have gained some traction, because the United game, they had the game won, and it would always seem that it was going the way second half, where United were just kept coming.
Yeah, well, in fairness, I was delighted that they threw it away against United there, I have to say. But it's kind of the same thing, that they do it every time. I don't know what it is. United put on a big striker and it completely changes the whole game. And that's what I think is their downfall, Southampton. Vestergaard, he's about 6'6", but as soon as you put on a striker that's, over 6 foot, he doesn't know what to do with him. He likes players that kind of are trying to run in behind, because he's quite good at interceptions and all that sort of thing. Romeo he has his games, sometimes he's man the match, sometimes he's just reckless and can get himself sent off. It's a weird one. And then on the other hand, Brighton, they're coming into form. Aaron Connolly, I thought, played well last week. Sean, I know you disagree with me when he was taken off, but I think that was madness taking him off. He was the most dangerous player on the pitch. And then you had Adam Lallana get injured straight away. So, yeah, it's a weird one. Brighton concedes stupid goals. And I know that's what Graham Potter really hates about the team. They just they concede goals when they're on the front foot. Tough one to call, I thought. Southampton should have won last weekend. Brighton had a good result, but I just think Southampton will edge it with another James Ward-Prowse free kick anywhere within 30 yards, unfortunately. So yeah, I think it'll be 2-1 to Southampton.
Cool. Yeah, Ryan, we'll go to you before Sean comes in there.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the points that Kev just touched on there. When I looked at this fixture, I could not believe where Brighton were in the Premier League. I've watched a lot this season, and it's the amount of draws it has them in the position where they were. Those games against United, with whatever, it was into almost 100 minutes, and they almost could have picked up some points, and then all of a sudden they're not, and I just couldn't believe where they are. They've conceded one less goal than Liverpool this season. When you look at it like that, I just couldn't believe where they are. Yeah, this one was tough for me. I'd like to think Southampton would, and I think they will, but again, I want to win this, so I've gone with a 1-1 draw here, and that's me putting my neck out on the line again.
Yeah, it could indeed come down to that. Like you mentioned, you're spot on with that stat. Yeah, so Brighton have actually conceded 1 goal less than Liverpool, which is a bit of a mad stat, to be fair. It is a bit of a mad season, I guess. Sean, firstly, the Aaron Connolly thing. So I hadn't heard this. Thanks for bringing it up on the podcast Monday. That'd have been a great all debate. I'd have taken Kev's side there, I think. So I think I'm on Kev's side, just listening quickly that year. I'm with him being, I think he was right to be upset, although he didn't go about it the right way, similar to Johnny Sexton and the Irish team. But what was your thoughts on it first?
You're right. You can be upset when you come off. I think Graham Potter got it right. I think, when you go 1-0 down, you know what Liverpool are going to do. They're going to try and hit you on the break, and another goal for Liverpool kills the game. So Graham Potter wants to get more control of the game. He brings on Adam Lallana. Look, Lallana gets injured straight away. And Connolly, because Mopé's gone off injured, and I think if Mopé was still on the pitch, then I think you might have seen Mopé off before Connolly. But I think that's why he took Connolly off to bring Lallana on to keep control of the game and not let it get a basketball match. Liverpool didn't really have too many chances to kill the game. I know there was the offside goal from the free kick, but I thought Brighton had pretty decent control, but kept in the game. And sure enough, they got a chance and they took it. And I think that's what you have to do when you're 1-0 down against those sides. Stay in the game for as long as possible. The last 10 minutes, Liverpool are going to drop deeper, which they did. They gave the ball away a lot. Jordan Henderson, I thought, a lot of people said changed the game when he came on. I didn't see it. I thought he gave the ball away. I thought he was sloppy as well. But Brighton kept in the game and got their goal. And I think that's why they got a point out of it. And they didn't look to attack it too much. And they just kept nurdling away and they got their breakthrough. And I fancied them against Southampton. I think they've improved a lot. I just think at the moment, Southampton, they were almost believing their own hype, and people were saying, Danny Ings isn't a big loss to them or whatever. I think Danny Ings is a massive loss. When you're, as good a goal scorer as he is, he gets a half chance, he puts it away. Whereas, a couple of other those, Theo Walcott had a couple of really good chances and, missed or didn't take the right option. I think Janempo didn't take the right option where he could have squared it. So, Southampton have been good, but I think they're going to struggle in this game personally.
That's interesting. So, lads, we'll go straight to the tiebreaker then. So, what minute do you think the first goal will be scored on all 10 or on the ninth fixture? So, basically, if Aguero scores in the 6th minute and there's no other earlier goal than that, then the answer's 6. We'll go to you first, Chop.
Oh God, you've caught me off guard here, lads.
It's gonna have to go for a number, man.
I'll go with 12th minute.
12th minute. Kev.
Yeah, I'm kind of going the similar way with Chop there. I'm just looking at City and Fulham here rather than any other game. I'd imagine I think City will score before the 10 minutes, so I'm going to say 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Wow. So listen, hopefully it doesn't come down to that because your lads will be gone mad. You can get time to think about it and come up with a proper calculated option. But yeah, that's it, lads. Really enjoyed that Premier League. Went through all 20 teams outside of Villa Newcastle, which is the game, of course, off for coronavirus. So as we mentioned, the Darrell Shea interview is in your podcast feeds on Wednesday. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that before, great reaction to that. And that's it. All that's left to say is goodbye from Chop and Kev.
See you, lads.
See you, lads.
We'll be seeing one of you guys next week. Sean will be seeing you next week as always. So goodbye from yourself.
Bye.
And goodbye from me, guys. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening to the show. And enjoy all the sport.